you close to making any deals, and is there any measure of disappointment?
Well, first I would say that deals are like being pregnant. You either are or you aren't. There's no like it's either a deal or it's not. So I don't know how close you can be. I know that everyone worked hard, and that we investigated and looked in and made phone calls and what personnel departments do. And in the end, we decided that this was what we were going to do and decided to move forward with our preparation. Tampa, excellent football team, coming off a bye. A lot of really good veterans that have played at a high level for a lot of years, and a really, really competitive quarterback who's never out of it. So, that's where our focus is. I know that there's a lot of action and a lot of talk, and again, it's kind of where we're at.
Foxborough Rush coming at you on a Friday. I don't even know where to start there. That was an all-timer by Mike Vrabel, right? I mean, you just take the analogy and go, it's kind of like being pregnant. You are or you're not. It's true. I got kids. I can vouch for that one. But look, I think like the point in all of this was, this is what we tried to do. This is what didn't happen for all the reasons that I'm not going to lay out for you. And here's where we are. And we got a football game to get ready for on Sunday. We're going to break down that game. We will head to Tampa to get the perspective from the Bucs, of course, as they come off the bye. They're sitting pretty in the 2 seed currently in the NFC, just like the Patriots are currently in the AFC. We'll also make some game predictions coming your way. It has been a very busy week in the NFL, a very difficult week in the NFL as well. So we have a lot to get to here on a Friday morning. Keagan Stiefel, Jade McCarthy here with you for the next hour on Foxborough Rush. Give me your thoughts on Vrabel's press conference yesterday, Keagan.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of close calls, so I don't know if I necessarily agree with him on everything that he said.
Well, they could have been close.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one way of him kind of covering for whatever stories that will come out. Obviously, on Wednesday, we talked about the whole Tennessee Titans situation, about how there have been multiple reports that they didn't want to deal with Mike Vrabel. They didn't want any part of giving him any sort of ammunition as the Patriots head toward the postseason. I can't say I necessarily blame them. I don't think it's a good way of doing business, but, we've all been petty a time or two and decided to cut off our nose to spite our face. So I think that's one part of the conversation that he definitely wouldn't address. And then there's another part where, whatever moves that need to be made, obviously the Patriots have to be willing participants and they have to give up things, whether it's players, draft picks, whatever. So when you don't give them up, you don't want to go and tell the world, hey, we were willing to give up, yada, yada, yada. And then that guy in the building is like, whoa, man, you don't want me on your roster. So he was never going to talk about the ifs, ands, or buts. It's only absolutes with Mike Vrabel. I can't blame him. I think the Patriots, from now that we're out of the trade deadline and it's more of talk about Tampa Bay, he obviously shifted the conversation, obviously, like you saw earlier in that clip. But as we shift the conversation, I think it does make sense for them to approach it the way they approached it, because, taking away from this unit, if you're not adding anything substantial, it never really made any sense. It's the mantra they used last year that didn't quite work out, but it might work out this year. We all we got, we all we need. They've been touting it all year, and it's a good mentality to have. I think they approached it the right way.
Yeah, and I think the buy-in is there this season, right? I mean, I think that everybody in that locker room is feeling that way, and quite honestly, like, wants to feel that way and is like, all right, like, I'm going to go do what I got to do, because this is it, right? I mean, we know with Coach Vrabes, like, there's no gray area. It's this or that. And like, this is what we got. We got us right here. So let's go get it.
I think there's very little convincing that needs to be done, right? I think they all actually believe what they're saying, which you see it across sports every year. Teams can talk about that they're going to buy into a new mentality, a new system, whatever it might be, and you could say that you're going to do it, but actually doing it is a different thing. The Patriots have clearly done that, and I don't think there's much that can happen over the course of the next few months that take them out of it. I think they've fully bought in and they're there. And now it's just a matter of execution and getting to the point or getting to the ultimate goal of whatever they do have. Obviously, they're going to say Super Bowl. I think the people in the front office have a different ultimate goal than the players. But as long as they're all saying the right things and they all fully believe that they can reach whatever their goal is, that's a good sign. I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, and no one's ever going to say, no, we don't want to get to
Right.
the Super Bowl. I
Right.
mean, heck no. Like, sometimes things just happen, like, honestly. So, no one's
Yeah, I
ever going
can
to put
say
that out there and say, we can't do that.
right.
They might say, that's not where we expect things to go. But there's
Right.
a very big difference between being satisfied with where you ultimately get and how long you play for in January, and saying we don't believe we can get somewhere. Like, those are two very
Yeah.
different things. And I'm sure that everybody in the organization, would be on board with that sentiment. Like, okay, if we wind up
Yeah.
getting further, then great. Just like in Washington a season ago, I don't think anybody thought they were going to get to the NFC Championship game. They didn't go into the season necessarily believing that, but they sure as heck didn't go into the season believing they couldn't get somewhere. So
Exactly.
it's like it's a small distinction, but I think it's an important one. And look, Vrabel's good for an all-timer sometimes at press conferences, and he's also usually good for a little bit of back and forth, with some of the reporters who cover the team. Here's another one for you.
The long-term vision for the program, is what's most important here. In fact,
No, winning is the most important thing. Don't put words in my mouth. Winning is the most important thing.
when
So
you guys were
keep
discussing,
going.
when you guys were discussing how to handle the trade deadline, did the fact of how wide open the AFC currently looks like at all factor into your decision making?
For us to sit here and think that anything is wide open and talk about playoffs, like we're focusing on our 10th game in a row. That's what we're focused on, is how do we get prepared on Wednesday? How do we get our bodies back? How do we get mentally prepared, physically prepared to go on the road to a place that is hard to play? And that's where our focus is. It's not trying to predict the future of saying, well, it's wide open. I mean, we're just going to keep focusing on what's in front of us, and that's what those conversations are about.
He's just not going to take the bait.
Yeah.
He's not going to
No.
do it.
It's a really hard job being down there every day and asking questions, because there are two sides to Mike Vrabel, not just personality-wise when you're asking questions, but he has two jobs, essentially. And it's being, the main one is being the liaison between the players and the executives and the front office. And finding him, leaning one way over the other makes it difficult to ask a question, because if he's leaning toward, I'm Coach Mike Vrabel and I care about my players and I want to put them in the best position as possible to succeed, you can't ask him about the organization's long-term vision, because there is no, here's the organization, here's what Robert Kraft and Elliot Wolf and Ryan Cowden and Stretch and all these guys, here's what they are looking forward to and want to get the organization to. It's what are the players, what track are they on? I think that's where he was in that moment, and that's why you see the pushback where it's about winning. We need to win. We need to win. We need to win. If you ask him in April, he's much closer to the executive side, where you talk about long-term vision. You talk about what do you believe this team can get to this year and then beyond. So it's difficult because you're going to ask him a question and you have no idea where his headspace is at, because it very clearly at this time was, it's about the players. I want them to feel like we're all in and we're going to compete every single week. Where, maybe at a different time, obviously if the records are different and they aren't, but say they're 5-4, it's a different conversation. It's about that balancing act. So I do want to give a little bit of credit. That's Boston Herald's Andrew Callahan, just to ask that question. He knew he was going to get stomped all over, but you needed to ask it anyway, because it's the most important question coming out of the week, was how did you balance trying to win now and trying to set yourself up for sustained success? Easy for me to say. That's that's what everybody wants to know, and we didn't get the answer, but it needed to be asked. The question needed to be asked.
Yeah, look, I mean, certainly like a good follow and a good read. Andrew's had some really good pieces this year. So give him credit for the job that he does covering this team. I would say a little bit though that I totally get where Vrabel's coming from with the winning is the most important, because I don't care what you're building for. Like, if you're the Tennessee Titans, if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, if you're the New Orleans Saints, like, you still want to go out there and get a darn win, because it's a lot easier to build from that place of winning, even when you're the New York Jets and you're in a full rebuild. Like, because what happens is, when you just lose all the time, like, your players learn how to lose instead of how to go out and win, right? Like, how do you close out a game? How do you play in a close game? How do you play in a blowout? Like, all these things are easier to learn from when you win, right? It's so much harder when you don't. So even though you're trying to, as an organization, not give up your future for your present, and that's something that all 32 teams around this league have to figure out how to do. And some of them do it better than others. That's just the harsh reality of it. But all of them are focused on winning, because that's the baseline for everything. If you can figure out how to win in the process of building and maintaining your team, you're doing it right. I mean, that is like the gold star of what you want to do as an NFL franchise, and quite candidly, like any sports franchise.
Yeah, they did that here for 20 years. So I think he knows it better than anybody, and the organization knows it better than any other organization. And for him, there was really no other way to answer that question, because if he does give us the honest truth and say, listen, we're not going to give up anything more than a fifth-round pick because we think these picks are going to help us in the future, that's how you lose buy-in. Because the NFL, there's 50% turnover every single year. Half the guys that are here right now are not going to be here next year. And if they hear, all right, they're not focused on winning now, they want to win in the future, why am I going to put myself on the line? Why am I going to make myself look bad? Why am I going to do things for the betterment of the team that might not be the best for me as a wide receiver, as a linebacker, as a cornerback? Why would I do that if they're not trying to win right now while I'm here? So he had to answer it that way. Totally get it, understand it 1,000%. You just also have to give credit to the people who are willing to ask the questions and willing to get stepped all over, because they know it's going to happen. And we see it all the time. This isn't to get on the soapbox, but fans will be like, what a dumb question. Yeah, it feels silly asking it in the moment, too. Like, I've asked Bill Belichick essentially told me to pound sand at one time in my young career. And, I had to ask the question. And then I heard all about it for weeks on end after the fact. But if I didn't ask it, somebody else would have. And you're not doing your job. So everybody has to do their job. Everybody has to say the right things. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you're just going to ignore the obvious or ignore the questions that you don't really want the answer to.
100%. I mean, the easy questions are easy for a reason, right? And if you're going to be a reporter, you got to ask the hard ones. And we have all been there, and had to do it. I mean, that's just, that's just it. Like, if you aren't, you're like you said, you're not doing your job. All right. Let's talk about the win at hand here and the game at hand as the Patriots head down to Tampa Bay to take on a Bucs team that, look, I mean, they've had their injuries, certainly, but it is a difficult place to play, as he said. And I fully expect they're going to come after Drake May. Let's go on that side of the ball first, Keagan. He's been sacked 34 times, second most in the league. And, I think some of that's on the line. I think some of that's on him, in just needing to either get rid of the ball sooner or, not try to live for another yard or 2 yards or whatever the case may be. And I think he's focused on that, and he's trying to answer that question, and he spoke a little bit about it this week.
Section, the guys are picking it up. I think those guys, speaking offensive line, have done a great job all year. a lot of the sacks I have taken have been my fault. Been me holding the football, and I want to credit those guys for what they've done in blitz pickup games and how hard they work on watching film and watching on Thursdays the third down cut ups and what they do kind of blitz wise. So and other than that, just my mindset of get it out and know that there's less people covering if they're blitzing, and just trying to be better and keep on growing against where guys are coming from and what they're trying to do behind the blitzes. Just trying to learn as much as I can of what these defensive coordinators like to do.
So the Bucs blitz on 35% of dropbacks, or they have this season, and I did love like Josh McDaniels' line about facing Todd Bowles' defensive packages, and he was like, "You're exhausted by the end of the game," right?
No one throws more at you than Todd Bowles. Like it's like facing a pitcher who has 10 really good pitches. I have no idea what's coming right now, and the mental gymnastics, like we've all been there before, where I would rather run a marathon than have to deal with this person because they put me through so many. They're so exhausting. That's what Todd Bowles is for Josh McDaniels, and he's been that way for it's going back to when he first started with the Jets. We're talking 10, 12 years now that he's been dealing with these defenses, and he had a little bit of a break, obviously, but it's a difficult just concept in general where the one thing you do know about Todd Bowles is that nothing going into the game, and you have to adjust on the fly. That's the hardest thing to do as an offensive coordinator in the NFL, is completely adjust what your game plan is. There's a reason everybody talks about, the script is the most important thing. Get out to a fast start. Your first 15 plays, if you could score a touchdown, you're in good shape. All right, now you're almost guaranteeing that you're not going to be able to, that it's a feeling out process. Then your job gets 15 times harder. So a really, really difficult for him specifically. And then for Drake Maye, obviously, he's never played a defense like this before. And coming off of 2 consecutive weeks where he's been sacked 6+ times, all right, good luck. Now you need to go protect yourself because it's going to get even harder for the offensive line to protect you.
Yeah, I mean, he, and I think that's the benefit of him taking the accountability and recognizing that some of that's on him and some of that, he's trying to learn and process, and and credit to Josh McDaniels in that, Drake Maye is a very different quarterback than we've seen him work with before, and he's leaned into that in a myriad of ways. But he's also like trying to make sure that Drake Maye has that ability while trying to keep him out of harm's way as best he can, which, I mean, you're talking about walking a tightrope. Like, that is not an easy thing to try and navigate, both for his growth, in terms of the quarterback, and his long-term health. I do think that like the learning curve for both of them has just been so sharply upward. Steph Diggs is talking about it as well. Let's hear from the Patriots wide receiver.
I've been super impressed. Kind of touched on it a little bit as far as like how hard it is to play quarterback. Like, it's a hard job. Every game's going to look different. Like every complexion of every game we're going, it's going to look different. So we're going and preparing the right way. Things happen in the game. You kind of just got to roll with the punches. But the more positive you stay, the better you are. Like, I feel like early in the season when I said we was going to learn from those losses, people kind of like snickered a little bit. But we're in that phase of, you're still learning. Don't ever get too comfortable. We're in that spot where we can continue to get better, and we will. So take it on the chin.
Got to go down there and, keep trying to learn from it. It's the test of the week, right? They put the win streak on the line down there in Tampa. They also put that, undefeated, I use that term loosely just because of where we are in the season, road record on the line, because they have been road warriors as well, Keegan. And look, I mean, all that does, it doesn't actually have an impact on this game on Sunday, but it does have an impact on the confidence with you go into the game.
Absolutely. When you have these things to kind of hang your hat on, we're road warriors. We go win on the road. We've got this 6-game winning streak. The second that ends, you kind of need to find a new identity. That's a really difficult thing in the NFL to do, is find something to hang your hat on. So now that they have it, it's trying to stretch it as long as possible, because when the first hit comes, more are going to come right after. So it's an interesting spot for them. I think this is a turning point week. Either they're going to turn it even further upward in the right direction, or there's going to be a little bit of a downturn for the first time, in a month and a half, really.
Yeah. And then it's just a matter of what do you do? Because everybody goes through adversity at some point in time. So what does it look like? And we'll see how they respond one way or another. We'll know the answer, come late Sunday afternoon. All right, we got to take a quick break here on Foxborough Rush. We will head down to Tampa as we continue. We'll get the Bucs perspective on this game, plus much more straight ahead. Stick around. Welcome back into Foxborough Rush. Great to have you alongside as we talk about the 7-2 Patriots and their march down to Tampa Bay. Tough place to play, Keagan.
Yeah, not fun to go down there. If it's not bad enough that they're a good football team, the weather, never fun, especially this time of year, because you're coming up from the cold and it's going to be humid. We've seen the Patriots struggle in that environment down in Miami, so it should be a difficult one for them.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, as we said, how they answer this test, this iteration, of the weekly test that they take on. Let's get a little bit more perspective here from the Bucs side of things. And for that, we will head down to Tampa. Bailey Adams of Pewter Report has been covering the team for quite some time now. Bailey, thanks for hanging with us on Foxborough Rush for a bit.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. Excited to talk some Bucs Patriots.
All right, so look, these are two teams that don't play each other very often. We all know that. And the Bucs are coming off a bye. Baker is never out of a game. It doesn't seem to matter who he has to throw the ball to. He just finds a way to remain in it. How would you characterize this Bucs team this season at this point in the schedule, Bailey?
I'd say battle tested. I mean, week by week they are losing more and more guys, it seems like, and regardless, it doesn't really seem like it matters who they lose. As weird as that sounds, they've been able to find a way, and a lot of that has come down to Baker Mayfield. He has just been the leader that this team needs through this kind of adversity. And out of the bye week, they were thinking hopefully they could get some of these guys back a little bit, maybe even for this Sunday's game. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, so it's just going to be another test for them to go out there and kind of try to get the job done with what they have.
Because they've been without so many specifically offensive players, I think those are the guys that we all have our eyes on, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Bucky Irving. Emeka Egbuka has stepped up big time, specifically early in the year, but he's been the guy for Baker Mayfield. What have you seen out of him, and what has made him, I guess, so effective early on in his career? Because it's not easy for a wide receiver to step right in and be the number one target immediately.
I feel like in some cases we should be surprised, or in some respects we should be surprised, but given the guy he's been since he got in the building, the maturity, the football IQ, the professionalism that he has displayed, he has been able to just step right in and do the job. I mean, I think we saw it early on in the season, even when Mike Evans was healthy. Egbuka was that guy who was kind of carrying the offense, and now that he's been asked to be the number one guy, he really hasn't missed a step. I mean, he's getting more attention. He's drawing more coverages and getting doubled a little bit more. But offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard said this week, they still got to find a way to get him the ball, even in those double coverage situations, because he's their number one guy now, kind of by default, but also kind of into the fact that he's earned it.
Yeah. What was it like in the early going between him and Baker, right? Like, I just wondered, how much did they both lean in, before things even really got going this season? It's so rare that you see a guy take off the way he has. And obviously I understand, the way he played in college, where he played in college, all those things have a factor. But was there anything that the two of them did that maybe is unique to them and how they sort of got this off the ground with such a rapid fire?
Yeah, it's funny because it started I believe the morning after Egbuka got drafted. So it was, obviously a whirlwind of a time. He's getting down to Tampa to do all the media stuff, to get his picture with the jersey, get a tour of the facility. And Baker reaches out to him, and Baker took him and his family, all who had flown down to Tampa, took them out to brunch or breakfast, whatever it was. And I think some of the offensive linemen went as well. So, I mean, just from day one, getting them on the same page and kind of welcoming him in with open arms and kind of realizing, this is going to be one of our guys. And, the chemistry, even from that point on, early on in mini camp and into training camp, it was very evident. And we kind of saw, one, that they had a special connection, but two, that Ibuka was just kind of a different kind of rookie. He's not the guy who's going to take, a few weeks to get his feet underneath him. He was ready to hit the ground running. So I think it's a credit to both of them and the relationship they've forged, but also I can't say enough about what Ibuka has done since he's gotten in, and all that we've heard from people inside the building about the kind of guy and the kind of player and the kind of preparer that he is.
Mm.
On the other side of the ball, Drake Maye has been the storyline for the Patriots, I would say, this year, if not going back to the latter half of last year. So he's somebody that we always have our attention on, and I'm always interested to see what the outside perspective is. Not just from you, but maybe from some of the players you've talked to this week about defending him and seeing what he's done in his second year, because it's obviously been more than most expected.
Yeah, you can tell that there's a lot of people impressed with what he's done, and I think there's a lot of respect for how he's developed and how he's kind of burst onto the scene, toward the end of last year, but especially into this year. I mean, the numbers he's put up and the fact that he has led the Patriots to this point at 7-2, there's a ton of respect for him. I know Baker talked about it this week and said how awesome it's been to kind of see how he has taken that next step and where he has the Patriots playing right now. So yeah, ton of respect for him, and I know they're going to have to be wary of what they're going to see come Sunday, because this has been a defense that's been playing pretty well, but this is also a Patriots offense that can get the job done.
Yeah, what have you heard from, some of the guys on that defense in terms of their vantage point heading into this game? We know that Bowles throws a bunch of different looks. We certainly know from Drake Maye's perspective and from this young offensive line perspective, there's going to be a lot that is new to them in this one. But I'm curious on the Tampa side, how are they looking at it, and what's sort of their rallying cry or their message, inside the locker room in terms of what they're going to be facing in the Patriots offense this week?
I think it is a lot of, like you said, sending everything at Drake Maye. I think that will be, that's one of the things that Todd Bowles just does in general. It's not just a Drake Maye specific thing. That's Todd Bowles' calling card. But I think this defense kind of takes on that image itself and really thrives on that. So, their message and kind of their perspective coming into this one is kind of keep doing what they've been doing. They've been on a run in recent weeks where they've been seeing the sack numbers go up. They've been taking the ball away at a higher clip, which is something they had a huge emphasis on going into this year because of, I think last year they had only 7 interceptions the whole year. This year they have 7 in the first 8 games. I think they have 12 or 13 takeaways in the first 8 games, and most of those have come back in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So a lot of it is kind of staying assignment sound and continuing to do what they've been doing and trying to get the ball away and make those game-changing plays that are going to swing things in their direction.
There have been obviously the injuries to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but a lot of players who have been around for a while, and I think about Levante David, guys like that. It seems like they're headed into the latter half or the end of their tenure in Tampa Bay, or at least being who we've come to expect them to be. What has that shift been like? Because, we saw it in New England a couple of times where guys who had won a Super Bowl and been really successful for a long time eventually move on, and the Patriots really struggled with replacing them. How have you seen the path, the process of trying to bring in guys that will eventually replace franchise legends?
It's tough, and I think it's actually kind of in two different molds right now because of drafting Emeka Egbuka. Last year in the 3rd round, they got Jalen McMillan out of Washington, who unfortunately had the neck injury in the preseason. We're kind of unsure about his future right now. But bringing in a guy like Egbuka, you kind of feel a little bit more comfortable about, okay, especially with what we've seen him do so far. It's like, okay, whenever it is, whether it's at the end of this season or if it's at the end of next season, if Mike Evans hangs him up, you've got that guy who's going to be your go-to, you think. It's a little bit different for Levante David. I think at inside linebacker, they have kind of struggled to build a room and kind of find that next guy in waiting. They've wanted it to be Servassier Dennis, who has taken on a larger role this year, but he struggled quite a bit in coverage so far. And I think a lot of people, not within the building, more so within the fan base, are losing patience in him. And I think the Bucs still like him, but I don't think they really are prepared for it to be the end for Levante David, even though all signs kind of seem like it might be. He's 35 years old. He turns 36 in January, and he's been doing the 1-year contract year to year for I think 4 or 5 years now. So it's going to be a tough shift and transition, especially at the linebacker position. And I think in terms of the leadership that they're going to be losing eventually, they're in a good spot with that. General Manager Jason Light has done a fantastic job drafting high character guys and leader guys who were captains in college. So I think from a culture perspective, they have guys that are in place that will carry things forward. It's just, personnel wise, especially at linebacker, they're going to have to find an answer probably this offseason.
Look, I mean, they found the answer at quarterback, right? Which is more than half the battle in this league. And, we heard Mike Vrabel say it this week. You can pretty much count, just keep on going. The number of people who will tell you Baker's never out of a game. And we see it week in and week out. You don't even need to tell you. All you got to do is watch, right? I mean, this, Bailey. What has Baker come to mean for this franchise?
It's been spectacular to watch because, his story is so fascinating, and I think his story is relatable, and it makes him kind of, I think early on, maybe even like a kind of a sympathetic character just because of the way things ended in Cleveland and how it went in Carolina and all of that. But when you're going from, and you guys know, like when you're going from Tom Brady to a new quarterback, it is the toughest thing I think you can probably do as a quarterback. And the way that Baker has assumed that role, and from day one when he won the job in 2023 and got them and kept them going, got them to the playoffs that year, won the division, and has continued to do that. He has kind of rallied this city and this fan base around him. And it's been very impressive to watch because I think part of it is he has kind of a magnetic personality in that he's just one of the guys, and you hear that a lot in the locker room. I mean, his offensive linemen love just hanging out with him. But yeah, I think this city and this fan base has really taken to him and has loved the fact that he is now their quarterback. And the Bucs have gotten lucky in a sense to go from Tom Brady and how Brady came in, changed the culture, helped them win a Super Bowl, help them kind of reset a little bit because this is a franchise that hadn't been to the playoffs for so long. But now it's kind of that culture is set in, and Baker has done a fantastic job to carry it forward. And the fans love him. He is their guy.
Game-wise, what are some of the specific things you'll be watching for on both sides?
I think, like I just mentioned, we talked about how the pressure that the Todd Bowles likes to bring. That, I think, is going to be a huge element from what the Bucs are going to try to do defensively. Something that you mentioned before I was on was, if the Patriots can score, that the opening script, if they can score early, that's a thing that the Bucs have struggled with. This season, they are giving up a lot of first drive touchdowns, and then they kind of buckle down after that. And I'm interested in seeing if, the bye week kind of helped them maybe figure some things out that were going wrong right from the start. It's weird. You've even seen it kind of in the first drive of the second half too. It's like those first drives, whether it's out of the locker room, I don't know what's happening, but they have struggled on those drives, and then they get the job done otherwise. But I think offensively, I'm curious to see what Baker Mayfield looks like in this game. He was looking like an MVP caliber quarterback the first 6 weeks. Struggled the last 2 weeks before the bye. I know he's been dealing with a bit of a knee injury and an oblique injury, and I think it's affected him. He said, I think he's kind of downplayed it, as he will, but I think the opposing defenses have taken away his escape lanes. That's one of the things he did so well early on in the season was escape and make plays on the run and pick up the 12, 13, 14, 15 yards that he needed on a key third down, and he hasn't done that in the last 2 weeks. And I think part of that is his knee and the injury he's dealing with, but I think it's also something that defenses have keyed in on. So whether he can look more like the week 1 through 6 Baker is the key on the Bucs offensive side of the thing. And like I mentioned, with the Bucs defense, it is bringing pressure on Drake May and trying to not let him get comfortable. And if he can get the ball out quick and move the ball down the field, then I think the Patriots will be in good shape.
Give us a prediction before we let you go, Bailey.
So actually, just before I hopped on here, wrote this in. We have our predictions come out every Friday before the game. I I always do this for some reason. I have a feeling about a game and then I go against it. So I have a bad feeling from a Bucs perspective. I don't know if this is a good matchup for them, and I picked them anyway. I had the Bucs winning 23-17. I really am kind of hinging things on Todd Bowles' defense. The offense for the Bucs right now is concerning me a little bit. They're still waiting to get Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin Jr. They might get right tackle Luke Gedeke back this week. Not really sure yet. I think that might be the case, but I think this defense has been playing really, really well, and I see that continuing.
All right. We'll see. Sounds like you're a little split. Like you said, you got a feeling, but you're going to go against it and take the Bucs in this one. We'll see how it all shakes out. Look forward to this one. It's a big test for both of these teams as they sit in that 2 seed in their respective conferences. Bailey Adams, thanks for hanging with us a bit on Foxborough Rush.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bailey.
We'll be back with much more right after this. On a Friday here, and here we go. Back in on a Friday. Our thanks to Bailey Adams, who was with us to give us the Tampa perspective. We'll make some picks a little bit later here coming up on this one. We kind of talked about it Wednesday, but things can change between Wednesday and Friday, so I want to give you a chance there, just in case, Keegan. Let's talk about some of the other games coming our way this weekend. You look at the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Seattle Seahawks, who, I mean, this is a tough Seahawks team. I just flat out don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, they're for real. And I think, not to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to pat myself on the back. I had them and I had the Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game. I think the Seahawks present so many problems defensively, especially for teams like the Arizona Cardinals who don't have anything to really lean on offensively. They've shifted their focus to Jacoby Brissett. He's their starting quarterback. He's been pretty good.
They've been better
compared
with
to what we
Jacoby
saw last
Brissett.
year. Yeah, he's been good. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. has been better with him, and I think that's why he's in there.
Yes.
It's not because he's better than Kyler Murray. It's because the best player on their team is better with Jacoby Brissett. So the Cardinals have been better, and I'll give them all the credit in the world for that. But I think the Seahawks are a real contender to win the Super Bowl this year, so I've got them winning. It's a home game in Seattle. They don't lose those.
Yeah. Home with the 12th man. I will take the Seahawks as well. 4:25. It is the Rams taking on the 49ers. These games are always good. I feel like there is very rarely a Rams 49ers game that doesn't deliver in some regard, Keegan.
Yeah, they're always awesome. And even when those two teams stunk like 6-7 years ago, the games were always great.
They're still good.
It's one of those division rivalries where the fan bases, I think, care. Like if the 49ers lose in the first round of the playoffs, as long as they get 2 off the Rams, they're all right. They're in decent shape. And the same thing for Rams fans, however many Rams fans there are these days. But I've done the whole Mac Jones thing for weeks. Like, Mac Jones stinks. He stinks. They've been good with him at quarterback. And I think that's not...
It's an admission!
That's not me giving credit to Mac Jones. That's me being like, Kyle Shanahan,
you gotta give the kid some credit.
You are the coach of the year. And honestly, I think the fact that they've been this good with him makes me think Brock Purdy's worse than I did coming into the season. Brock Purdy might stink too. So whatever I'll say about their quarterbacks, the fact that they're able to stay competitive with all of the injuries and taking these guys who are not coveted quarterbacks and turning them into what look like franchise options. I'm not saying Mac Jones is a franchise quarterback. I'm saying he's played well over the last few weeks. They've been really good, and I give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit for that. I'm going to take the Rams because I think the Rams are another one of those NFC teams who are like legit and could compete for a Super Bowl. But it's going to be another close one. I think the 49ers have every chance to come away with a win. I just think the Rams are better overall.
Yeah, honestly, like, this one's like a pick'em to me. I mean, like, it could go either way. It could be like, whoever has the ball last. Like, it's that kind of game to me. Give Mac Jones some credit, please. Like, just give him some credit. He might have played himself into a starting job for one of these franchises next year. We won't go on a tangent here, I promise. But I'm just saying, give him some credit in terms of how he has played at quarterback. My favorite moment this week was when he was asked if he has the song Return of the Mac on his playlist. But that might just be because my kid's name is Mac too. too. I don't know. I mean, just saying. I'll take the 49ers just to be different. As I said, I think this one is a coin flip. The Lions in Washington taking on a Commanders team that obviously has been dealing with significant injuries. The good news, I guess, that came out today was that there's no ligament issues. There's no surgery needed for Jaden Daniels with that elbow injury. Of course, it's in his non-throwing arm, which is also a huge sigh of relief for everybody in that franchise and for every fan of this Washington team. That said, I don't see how they're going to go out and take on this Lions team. I'll take Detroit for the win.
I've got Detroit too. I think the Lions can put up 40, if not 50, on this Commanders defense. They've been horrific, like really, really bad for 3 weeks now. They've got guys on that roster that are very close to retirement. Like, I'm not talking the end of the season. I'm talking during the season. Like, all right, I'm hanging them up. I've had enough, because we talked about it last week. It's an old roster. There are a lot of guys there who kind of held on, and they had their one last dance last year, making it to the NFC Championship game, but they're going to need a big overhaul this offseason. It's bleak. I feel really bad for Commanders fans. They don't deserve this.
They endured a lot.
And they still do.
All right. The Sunday night game, the Steelers, obviously, who walked out, against Indy with a win last week, forced 5 turnovers in that game. They take on the LA Chargers, who they've dealt with, injuries themselves this season. Probably the biggest one being to Joe Alt, who I think I've said this, but he's like, I can't call him the little engine that could, because he's not little, but that's what he feels like to this team, Keegan. Like, he is the engine. And I'm curious to see how they fare without him for the long term, because it was tough in the short term when they didn't have him.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys who thinks Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback. I think he's that good. They've crumbled around him. And so he can be so good, and you're only going to get so far without Joe Alt and facing a defense who, say what you will about the age and about the fact that they're doing all these weird things. Like, Jalen Ramsey's a safety now out of nowhere. Kyle Duggar played, I think it was 73 out of 74 snaps in his first week with them and was phenomenal. They forced turnovers. The Chargers turned the ball over a decent amount. So I've got the Steelers. You just can't survive games like that.
Yeah, I mean, if the Steelers are forcing turnovers like they did last week, it's hard not to take the Steelers in this game. Herbert can still sling it. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I'll go Steelers. All right. The Monday night game, it is the Eagles heading into Lambeau Field, where, of course, the Packers did not earn a win last week. Whoo! Who do you like?
This is my favorite matchup of the year. I think these two teams are so flawed. They're so talented, but they're both so flawed, and they're both set up to take advantage of the other side's flaws. Like, the Eagles are going to be able to get after Jordan Love. The Packers are going to be able to stop the run. What a fun matchup. I think you're going to see somebody, one of these, depth pieces on either offense, whether it be one of Green Bay's running backs that isn't Josh Jacobs, or one of Philadelphia's wide receivers that isn't, Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. Somebody's going to step up and be the difference maker in this one. And those are always the best games, especially on Monday nights, in my opinion. I've got the Packers at home. I think if they're able to protect Jordan Love even a little bit, they should have no problem in this game. They're so talented, and they've stepped on their own foot kind of 3 or 4 times this year. And at some point, I would expect them to realize kind of where their deficiencies are and fix the problem. I think that was this week. They had a rock bottom moment, let's say, against the Carolina Panthers. So I've got the Packers in this one.
I was surprised when I saw this, but Philly has 3 turnovers this season, which is the fewest in the league. The fewest through 8 games all time in franchise history. We saw Howie making moves, not really having to give up a lot and bringing in some different pieces that could help on defense. I'll take the Eagles in this game. I think there's a lot of know how to get the job done, even if it's get the job done ugly in that
Sure.
locker room. And I think they may be able to exploit that of the Packers on Monday Night Football. But I agree, should be a tremendous game. Okay, if you didn't hear Graham Gano yesterday, I saw this and I was appalled
Yeah.
listening to what he had to say. So we're gonna play Graham Gano here, so you can take a listen of just disturbing, like really disturbing.
Yeah.
Here he is.
People suck.
I kind of keep it to myself. I mean, I'll talk to teammates if I'm struggling, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. Over the years, I mean, I've been playing ball since before social media, so I've gotten to see the whole gamut of it, and I think it's tough for a lot of the younger guys, you know, if you really look at that stuff. But during the season, I normally shut those things off anyways. But it doesn't stop people from seeing you in public and saying things to your face. But I mean, I get it too. People are passionate, and a lot of it I understand. And but you know, I want to do my best. I'm proud to be a Giant. I wish there was something I could do to not be hurt, but I just, you know, at the end of the day, I want people to know I care. I want to play. I want to be the best I can. I want to make every kick. You know, I want to be the best teammate I can. So, yeah, it's I mean, something I care about. I wouldn't be playing this long if I didn't care about it.
At some point, kindness counts. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like, who is going to walk up to someone and say, I hope you get cancer? Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
what in the name of humanity would even make you want to say something like that? I don't care what you're invested in. It's just a matter of be kind. Like, be cognizant of the fact that this is a guy and this is his job, but he's also a person. Like, who
Yeah.
says that
People
to
are-
anybody even?
People are so detached from reality, and you know, whatever's to blame, social media, you know, being away from people for a long time during COVID, everybody used that as an excuse. Whatever it is, if you just treat, this is going to sound like I'm going to sound like a third grade teacher right now. You just treat other people the way not only you would like to be treated, but like the people you love. Treat them how you treat those
Yeah.
people. I think it's so insane, you know, and players hear it all the time. People in the media, and I'm not even talking about like us. I'm talking, you know, the people you see on ESPN. Go read the comments on some of their stuff that they post, and it's like,
Oh,
whoa, man, what is your problem? You know what I mean? And I think the biggest thing is that people are just detached from reality. They're not understanding that this is somebody's real life, and this is something that is going to sit with that person for a fair amount of time. So just be a normal human being and treat other people with kindness and respect, and just relax a little bit. Everybody take a step back and just
Yeah.
calm down.
Yeah. Well, and I think Drake May said it really well when it comes to social media when he was like, why would I listen to somebody who I wouldn't go to ask for advice? But that's the reality of it. Like, you have to kind of have that wall up there when it comes to social media. But come on, like just be kind. Be kind. It's not that hard. You wouldn't want someone to say that to your kid or your brother or your husband or your wife, or it's not that difficult. Like, just practice an ounce of kindness. Of course, the reason that Graham Gano was asked some of those comments was because the news that came out yesterday down in Texas related to the Dallas Cowboys, and they lost one of their own in Marshawn Nealand, who struggled with his mental health reportedly, and took his own life at 24 years old. Our thoughts, prayers, certainly with his family. And we just want to send this reminder, right? Like, if you're struggling, if someone you know is struggling, call a friend, text a friend, call mom, call dad, call anyone. You can also call one of the hotline numbers you see on your screen. All right, we're practicing kindness here on Foxborough Rush. So we're going to look at some of the comments that we get in our mailbag. They're always a little interesting, sometimes a little spicy. We don't always agree with them, but we'll practice kindness in our response. This one coming from Bucs TB1274 regarding the Patriots, and saying this team needs a superstar, a franchise player. respect the opinion. I said we were practicing kindness. I think we found one in the quarterback, Drake May.
Like the superstar, the definition of a franchise player. I wonder who his favorite player is. It's not abundantly clear when you look at his username.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty of other people that would probably still list TB12 as their favorite player. So he's certainly got good company there. Let's touch on one more here. Y'all tripping. The Pats about to beat the Bucs. They really are not that good. I'm trying to understand which way that goes.
Yeah, I think he's talking about me because, you know, we'll give our picks again real quick. But you were positive. I was the negative one, so I'll take the rap. I'm tripping. The Bucs ain't really that good, but they are. I think the Bucs are that good, and I think they're going to win this weekend. I was thinking about a score prediction. I went weird last week, and it turned out to be a pretty good pick. It was a weird score. I'll take the Bucs 24-20. I just think they're just a better football team.
24-20 Bucs. I don't dislike it. I still think I'll go New England here. I think they don't know what they don't know, and the Bucs still have a lot of injuries. So let's go 28-27. How about that for a weird score?
That's a fun one.
Enjoy the football.
See ya.